In the famous lawsuit between author Mary McCarthy and Lillian Hellman, it centered around a casual comment made by McCarthy on the Dick Cavett show when Dick Cavett asked her whom she considered to be overrated writers. Mary listed Lillian Hellman specifically. Lillian was watching the interview from her Manhattan apartment. She wasn't amused. We're all surrounded by many gods: pride, prejudice, and self importance. And often we're most offended when the truth comes closest to home, whether you're at home or on the Dick Cavett show. Welcome. Welcome to Sunday Coffee Hour. I'm Stanley Smith. At Sunday Coffee Hour, we do talk about everything and nothing. This Sunday, we talked about having reservations, using expensive ingredients, being ready to go, having a biopsy of the uterus, and that my cleaning lady left with the pandemic. The readings at Washington National Cathedral were from Isaiah. Look at the rock from which you were hewn. And from Romans, none of us should think too highly of ourselves. The gospel reading was from Matthew. Jesus asks, "Who do they say I am?" The sermon at Washington National Cathedral was by Randy Hollerath. Randy preached about who Jesus is. He said, Jesus is not just a man in history, but he's a man who fills history. Randy talked about the March on Washington, which happened 60 years ago. Randy said he was born right after that march happened, and just a few months before the assassination of John F. Kennedy. Randy said, Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech is ingrained in him because it speaks to the promise of America for both good and for bad. Dr. King was seen as a champion and a threat at the same time. He was an inspiration to the oppressed and a threat to the establishment. Randy said, many of the issues we face today are the same issues Dr. King faced in his time. We've made some progress, but most of the progress has been about maintaining the status quo. And the people who stand up to that, well, lots of progress has been made in tamping those people down. At St. James Cathedral, Lisa preached about who is Jesus. Lisa attended the World Parliament of Religions last week here in Chicago, and she said it was a rich experience with many expressions of God, all authentic and genuine in their tradition. Lisa said that her takeaway from the conference was that it's all about Jesus and that we should all check him out. Lisa said she would never say that to anyone, but she couldn't suppress her underlying conviction of this truth. Lisa said every religion thinks that it's the one and true faith, but from God's perspective, there is but one faith. Lisa asked us, who do you think Jesus is? And instead of suppressing the answer, perhaps we should start speaking up. Many of the gods around us are so ingrained in us that because of this, we sometimes have our seasons in God and our seasons not in God. It's all okay. But the ones who actually do stand up and talk about Jesus and who Christ is are usually the ones who get tamped down. Martin Luther King spoke up, and he was generally supported for doing so until his message became anti-war and anti-establishment. We say we like to lift up and celebrate dissenters, but dissent is often not appreciated or even understood in its own time. It's only later, through the appropriation of ideas, that dissent is repackaged and employed to just continue the cycle of abuse and of the establishment. Mary McCarthy said she didn't really believe in God, and instead she believed in the abstraction of ideas. But because she was raised as a Christian, she would always be a Christian, and it would always be part of her, because to divorce herself from it would mean that her very self would crumble. The story of the Bible is filled with many stories of dissent, crumbling, and then rising again. It's the story of Christ himself. Christ didn't come to threaten the establishment, he came to deliver a message. When we eventually hear the message, we can experience a cathartic shift, which allows for a resurrection of sorts. It's often represented by an act or symbolic action. This could be seen as threatening, but in fact, it's probably salvation itself. If you would like to join us at Sunday Coffee Hour is every Sunday at 12 noon Central Time on Zoom. I will include my email in the description of this video. I'll be happy to send you an invitation. And I look forward to seeing you very, very soon.